probably the biggest news in big tech this week, and one that a few of you have asked me to cover in the comments, is Mark Zuckerberg announcing Facebook going free speech. Are they really doing this? If so, what is the reason? Have they really adopted free speech? These are the questions we're going to look at today, and I have a few different thoughts. So let's go ahead and dive on into this topic. Thanks for checking out this video by Switch to Linux. If you like this type of content, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. Leave us a like and a comment down below to help us in the algorithm. And with that, we are going to get along and discuss this topic. And I'm going to actually start by pulling the article from Not the Bee, just because, hey, why not, right? So, Zuckerberg to replace Facebook fact checkers with community notes and work with Trump to fight censorship worldwide. So, has Mark Zuckerberg all of a sudden turned into a free speech advocate? Well, he did about a 5-minute video here. We are not going to play the video. It's been all over the internet, all over news. If you haven't seen it yet, just go find it. And he's actually announces he's restoring free expression on Facebook, eliminating the fact checkers, and going to the crowdsourced community notes for all Meta products. It's Facebook, WhatsApp, Threads, Instagram. If there's any other Facebook product there as well, they have that also. His announcement is 5 minutes. He actually starts by talking about the notes that he made, the comments he made in Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression. He says, and I still believe this today, and some people have questioned whether or not this is true. Is he just going with the political ties? Because for the last several years, he's been censoring people, not for what you would call real misinformation, but for objective truths that are politically inconvenient. And I'm going to use that word politically inconvenient because, like it or not, politics has entered a censorship arena, and that things that even in my channel here now, of course, I haven't worked with Facebook for years, but on YouTube, I've had videos that were community struck for things in the koofies that, oh, wouldn't you know it, congressional report now says is completely true. Nobody restored that. Nobody gave my audience back. And the people who accused me of doing wrong have not yet apologized, although I don't expect they're going to. But with that, he did come out and say he's going to take a different stance. Effectively, he does say, he says a lot has happened in the last several years. There's been widespread debate about the potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political. So it's possible that he was okay up to a point, but he might have been pushed too far. It did come out. It is a matter of public record that the Biden administration did force Mark Zuckerberg to take certain things that were inconvenient to their administration off of their platform. Now, the little odds and ends, did they make them? Oh, no. It's just the way that the federal government, kind of like the IRS. Did the IRS make you pay your bills? Or do they just threaten you with a whole bunch of negative consequences for failing to do so? And that really is one of those questions. So he did admit that he messed up. One of these things was the Hunter Biden laptop, which he didn't know one way or the other, but the government said, hey, there's Russian misinformation coming and this, and whether or not they said it was about this or they assumed it was about this, they kept it all out. Lo and behold, matter of public record, it was all true. And so that was one of the things. But what he said is that there is a lot of negative stuff that floats around on any social media network, whether it's Facebook or Meta products, or whether it's X, or whether it's Mastodon. All of these principles have a lot of these things going on here. So he does address, and everything in here, it's not like they're like, it's a beacon for the wild, wild west. No. What he says in his statement is we're taking a hard line against illegal activity. The problem is, just like the government's dragnet, when they're collecting every bit of data about everything possible, you have too much data to sort through and identify the stuff that you need to identify. And so with a lot of negative, or we should say illegal material on the platform, they have to prioritize that. They're prioritizing getting the illicit substances, the terrorism, the CSAM. They want to focus on these because these are universally illegal in most places. So let's get that stuff off of there. What he said, though, is that when there were just an increasing amount of things that were just politically inconvenient to talk about, it became this complex moderation system to fix all of the circumstances. And so what happened there is a lot of false flags were done, and a lot of things were done that were simply due to political biases. You may not like the fact that I am a straight white male Christian conservative on the surface, but that's my right to be. We can disagree on those principles, but hopefully we have enough maturity to say, hey, we're here not talking about those principles. I'm not a political commentary channel. I never have been a political commentary channel. That's the things I believe. Those are the things I tend to gravitate towards, but I'm here to teach you about privacy. I'm here to teach you about Linux. I'm here to teach you how to run your life in an alternative method, and I don't care what side of the aisle you come from. So the thing is that Facebook, we'll just use Facebook as a proxy for Meta. They realized they went too far, and in so doing, they alienated a lot of people. Now, this brings into another one of his purposes. Is he doing this just because it's hurting their bottom line? It's very possible. We're going to get into my speculations and questions about that near the end here. But what he says they're doing now is they're going to do what X started to do. So X got rid of a lot of this fact checker long ago, and they used community notes, which are crowdsourced by users to supply context that may be missing from the original tweet. And because they're not individual paid organizations, they don't have the biases that seem to come to us. I mean, look at some of these, look at Snopes, for example. Most common old classic fact checker before a fact checker was a thing. And the reality is that they are a left-leaning organization. Now, they didn't start that way. They just grew into that direction. PolitiFact was one of the ones that Facebook was using. They are a left-leaning organization, which means if they're looking at some circumstance that happened, they're less inclined to take a neutral or even a right approach if there is a convenient out on the left approach, which means that a lot of these fact checks ended up occurring on a more biased approach, even though the fact checkers have fact checked Mark Zuckerberg's statement false, which is very interesting. But of course, you have to realize that they have a financial motive in bringing up a lot of this, because a lot of these people are going to be out of job. Now, what he does say is, going in here, he does talk about the community notes, and then he says over the next couple months they're going to phase in a more comprehensive community note system. So he says he will also be doing the following: simplifying content policies which are not convoluted and can be used to strong-arm people into censoring themselves. Obviously, here on YouTube, we do still do a lot of this. We say the koofies. I hope you probably know what I'm talking about. And we can mention other words like that as well. We don't want to do that, but if it comes down to speaking the absolute 100% solid truth about something that my channel is not specifically related to, I'd rather go ahead and be here to produce another video. They say down here, a new approach to policy enforcement where automatic filters scan for illegal and violent content as a priority, with lower level issues like misgendering, a man in a dress, and relying on human reporting again. So they're going to be relying less on the automated filters, more on the human, and then bring back civil content, meaning Facebook will recommend political content again because we're in a new era. So for a while they had turned off feeding political commentary. You could do it on there, but they weren't really promoting it. Now, there seems to be a trend in tide and people want to see it again. Move the trust and safety team out of California, which they say is super liberal, and have a new content-based review in Texas. We could say things about that. Conservative states are not much better than California, and Texas does have more regulations than most of the other states. We'll say that. And then he says he wants to work with President Trump to push for free speech worldwide. Obviously, this raised a lot of questions with a lot of people. And I want to look at some of the other articles. So in Security Affairs addresses this. They say that the community notes they're replacing this because of a cultural tipping point. And what he says down here is they introduced over 90 certified third-party organizations, including PolitiFact and factcheck.org, to review posts in 60-plus languages. But they announced big changes in content moderation, increasing political content feeds across Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and impacting billions of users. And he revealed the election was a key factor in his move, and he criticized governments and legacy media for pressuring increased censorship. So is this a result of him being forced to censor things and he didn't really want to, or is he just going with a political tie? Once again, I'll get into my speculations about what's going on near the end. Now, regarding moving in the direction of X in this, a lot of people are saying that, in fact, a lot of people are coming out and going, oh, this is so horrible. In fact, the Mastodon CEO says they're deeply troubling. They're warning users from cross-posting from threads. So when Elon Musk took over Twitter, I believe it was November of 2022, then what had ended up happening there is everyone said, oh, it's the end of Twitter. And everybody and their brothers running around screaming, it's the end of Twitter. It's the end of Twitter. And they were all pronouncing it. What they're trying to do is they were following like some self-help guru trying to speak into existence the thing that they wanted, name it and claim it, or blab it and grab it was my best analysis of that particular theological error. And people were saying that this is the end of Twitter. It's a bastion of hate. Now, I didn't find this statistic. I've seen it before. I couldn't find it. But right now, Twitter still slightly leans left. It used to be deeply left-leaning. What happened is a lot of your left, super left people got off of Twitter, and then a lot of conservatives got back onto Twitter. So Twitter didn't actually lose a lot. In fact, the evidence seems to suggest they've still grown, even though everybody's been told from the very beginning how much Twitter is dying. It would appear that they've grown. I'm going to show you the evidence for that in just a moment. But they were trying to speak into existence how bad Twitter was in order to get people off of the platform. The reality is that right now Twitter leans left only slightly. It used to be very far left-leaning. Now it's about, if I remember the statistics correctly, it's about 53% liberal and 46% conservative, with the rest, calling themselves directly in the middle. And that really is where it is right now. So looking at, I want to go back over here first at backlink. Oh, okay, get rid of that stupid SEMrush thing. It'll pop up every time I do that again too. But looking at some of the statistics, they currently have over 500 million active users in 2024. We're seeing different numbers here. More than 200 million daily users. Twitter's most popular among users aged 25 to 34. They have annual advertising revenue hit about $3 billion in 2023, and 1,000 people work there. Looking at this, here's the Twitter user growth, and this is what people were talking about. So the Twitter user growth is going up. This is daily active users worldwide. And so October 2022, right before Elon Musk takes over, you can see where it is. Elon Musk takes over in November. You can see a slight, and then, oh, the end is nigh. My Twitter is dying. Of course, these numbers were revised. They didn't revise the table, the chart, excuse me, but they did revise the table. This is actually 245 million, a loss of only 10 million. Not a lot of loss there. However, again, this is, that was going, was that July of 2024? This is December of 2024. What they're saying is they had, where's the number? I think it's this one down here. 368 million active monthly users. They didn't report daily here, but that number is still about the same. The revenue in 2022 was 4.4 billion. They don't have any projected revenue from then because since then they were made a private company. They are no longer required by law to disclose their earnings. Although people like Mashable, who are deeply left-leaning and are just projecting the death. I mean, look at this. X's declining user base. Elon Musk platform projected to lose millions of users in 2025. No, this is Mashable trying to blab it and grab it. It's not going to happen. They're going to maintain. X is very stable. In fact, X is still growing. What they're doing in here is they're looking at all these different posts and things and what they're doing previously, and they're trying to project the loss of a lot of left-leaning people. But the fact of the matter is a lot of more conservative people are joining back on and still are in some ways. And so they're projecting these losses. It's not actually going to happen. And one of the things they do is look at how much money they're losing. Their revenue went from here to here. Revenue is a gross thing, not a net thing. Twitter's revenue did indeed drop. That is true. By it was like 50%. It was a lot. One of the articles I looked at had a chart. I don't have that article up here. But they also cut their operating budget by 85%. Okay. By getting rid of the people, if you saw some of the TikToks where people were going into work and TikToking their daily vlog of getting there late and stopping at the smoothie bar and then going and doing yoga on the roof. And in that entire TikTok vlog, not a single ounce of work was done. Yeah, Elon Musk cut all those jobs out. It was a bunch of people showing up just like being tech bros at the company and not doing anything. He fired them all because this is a job, not a hangout club. And so the operating expenses got streamlined. And so, yes, their revenue went down, but their operating expenses went down drastically more, meaning their profit most likely went up because that's how business works. And so basically, why are we going off on Musk? I thought we were talking about Zuckerberg. Well, the reality here is that Zuckerberg is borrowing from Musk, where everybody said this is going to lead to absolute doom. It's been working for Elon. And the reality is that the fact checkers, according to Zuckerberg, have pushed people away from the platform, and that hurts them. Regardless of how you think people dress or how they should or what you say or what you believe. The bottom line is you need eyeballs in your platform, and if your fact checkers are pushing everybody away because they cannot tolerate objective facts such as Y chromosomes, well, you know what? People are leaving Facebook and going to Twitter. So the Mastodon CEO calls Meta's moderation deeply troubling and warns users about cross-posting. They even make the statement following the announcements. Meta loosens content moderation rules, which will affect the LGBTQ communities and other marginalized users. Many Mastodon users wanted to know what this meant for open source decentralized social network. And so basically he comes in and says that with these, this is the post here, the moderation policy are deeply troubling and should be concerned to anyone with a conscience. With a Fediverse, while the Fediverse is a decentralized platform where different service providers have different moderation policies, at Mastodon.social, hate speech is prohibited, and we will take action on any Thread account violating our policies. We would strongly urge anyone with Threads account to reconsider their alignment with the new direction at Meta and move to Mastodon instead. I would like to note here that when he uses the word hate speech, what he means is every speech that does not agree exactly with his. It takes a perilous little amount of difference before you can get banned off of these platforms. In fact, one guy wanted to test that. So this is Henry Story over on Medium, has an excellent article. And what he wrote is when Elon Musk went and bought Twitter, he's like, yeah, and everyone's telling him, you heard this all over the mainstream media saying, oh, it's become this place of hate and nobody cares about anything. It's going to be just people throwing insults all over. What he said is he jumped on over there, and his statements down here, he said, arguably, Twitter does a better job of fostering an open discussion, especially once they made a space for longer tweets, allowing for more subtle arguments to be developed. And people on Twitter are much more open to debating complex problems now. This is a significant change from when 240-character tweets forced everybody to speak in tabloid headlines. Since Elon Musk took over and the blue identification mark reduced anonymity, the quality of the debate has risen and it feels much less trollish. Okay, with Elon touting free speech and absolutism, I decided to test it and push it to the limits. So he tested a few maybe spicier things. He did some regarding children and certain injections, and indeed there was not really any issues with that. He says, let's see. I've never been shadow banned before, but this is probably only because I posted the mathematical about mathematics and philosophy. Never felt saying anything controversial other than questioning why children need shots, which led to some pretty harsh reaction at the time. I think at this point in time, he did seem to be shadow banned for posting that, but he still has his account, no issues. He says how Mastodon, however, is non-centralized in the sense of being architected around large nodes, i.e. is federated. People can run their own personal nodes too, though it is very resource intensive, I'm told. So he decided to get an account with Mastodon.xyz node. I was quite happy with it at first. Started being a lot less happy when I found my post being canceled. So he goes on to Twitter, and he's able to have complex dialogue with people that disagreed with him. He goes over here, and he simply gets tweets deleted. I guess they're called toots over here. So first one I got canceled was my pointing to a story about YouTube canceling a speech by an MP of the UK House of Commons on the Koofies. It is still available on Twitter. So it's on Twitter. It's not on Mastodon. However, he was warned on Twitter. I think he says he was warned on Twitter. I'm not sure if he was warned, if that means Twitter or Mastodon. Number 2, he censored talk on the dangers of transitions for minors. He basically, this is actually for a Linux channel. This is actually relating to Linus Torvalds. He gave, he basically made a mention how it's okay for anybody to transition, including minors. And so this person in this article points out that says maybe there's a problem with transitioning minors, although he says adults should have no problem. Ultimately in our society, if a minor can't smoke, a minor can't get a tattoo, a minor can't get a ear piercing, a minor can't vote, a minor can't drink alcohol. He questions, can a minor do permanent other changes to their body? And probably even before Linus Torvalds even seen the toot, it was deleted by the moderators of Mastodon. So you cannot have open discussion and debate on Mastodon. And then he questioned this one, Robert Kennedy Jr.'s discussions on bioweapons. He turned over to here, he posted some things, and once again, things were taken down. And what he questioned here is, this is a Democratic candidate with 20% of the Democrats' support, and there's nobody anywhere he could find that was specifically supporting him, except I think he said there were a couple of little things down here. He said the strange coherence across Mastodon instances. Now, is it only Mastodon XYZ doing the censoring? No, it is consistent across other instances. Here are the RFK Jr. tags for other instances. So here's a few different tags there. You can see even the W3C social instance does not show any story that puts RFK Jr.'s point of view forward where it is straightforward to do so. So Mastodon is not a place where you can go and have a strong dialogue and have a discussion. It's a place where you have our views or you're out of here. Twitter is a place where you can go and have your views, discuss them, and debate them. Facebook now is at a place. Do they want to be in this area where nobody's allowed to have any discussion, or do they want to be able to foster discussion, which increases engagement of real people and move things in a proper direction? That is ultimately the question. Now, of course, it wasn't just Mastodon. It is the whole world going crazy. So over in The Guardian, in The Guardian here, The Guardian is, they have stockpiled Kleenex and they're in the back room doing something uncouth because they just went crazy and published article after article after article on this. And some of them are unhinged. This one is quoting from Brazil. So, of course, Brazil sanctioned Twitter for 40 days for failure to take down an actual, objective, truthful post that was inconvenient to the government. And so as soon as Meta decides that they're going to go with the community note version of Elon Musk and support a more free speech model, the Brazilian government gave the Meta Brazilian office 30 days to respond to comment. Hey, you're still going to censor all the stuff that we want censored, right? And so we haven't seen a response from that yet, but there is Brazil kind of getting all concerned. They say over here, these are them again, writing about the revisions of hateful conduct. What can users now say on Meta? And so over here we have, they've rewritten their policies on hateful conduct, which means people now say different types of things on the platform. Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, after Mark Zuckerberg's announcement of sweeping changes to oversight of content on its platforms, multiple edits have been made to its policies. Among them, a specific injunction against calling transgender or non-binary person people it has been deleted. A new section has been added making it clear that we do allow allegations of mental illness or abnormality when based on gender or sexual orientation, end quote, according to The Guardian, quoting the Facebook's new policy. And it says it was a reflection of political and religious discourse about such things and common non-serious usage of the words like weird. It was also said that the policies are designed to allow room for types of speech, including calling people for exclusion for using insulting language in the context of discussing things. So, is it rude or not rude? What can you say? What can't you say? What Facebook is basically saying here is, look, if it's not an illegal speech, we don't care. And I got news for you. It was indeed the party on the left years ago that when Frank Zappa was out there doing profane lyrics and Tipper Gore was out there like, oh my God, for the children, and the leftists were saying, if you don't like it, just turn it off. Well, I got news for you from a person on the right. If you don't like the speech on Facebook, just turn it off. We got the parental advisory explicit lyrics. Of course, the very next album Frank Zappa produced had not a word on it, and still they slapped the language on it because they wanted to punish the man and not the music. Go figure. Okay, and speaking from a non-Frank Zappa fan, can't stand the guy personally. All right, but that being said, that was the old statement. If you don't like it, turn it off. You know what? No one's forcing you to be on Facebook. If you cannot tolerate people bringing up viewpoints that are different from your viewpoints, get off the platform. turn it off. Block the person so you don't see them anymore. You are happy to live in your own little echo chamber all you want. Some of us would like to have a little bit of debate. Yes, it sounds like I'm not interested in a debate either. No, I am. I am very interested in a debate. But I am also interested in a debate with a person that will have reason and logic and will listen and not just scream people down who disagree. I have a lot of debates over time. All right. They also says Meta's policies are unchanged, saying a user should not post content targeting a person or group. This deals more with things like targeting people. It is always illegal to threaten somebody. It is always illegal to target somebody. It is always illegal to do certain illegal things. None of that has changed. They said it should now be possible to say that transgender people do not exist. Well, that's just misinformation if you want. They clearly do. The question we sometimes have is, to what extent should we accept that viewpoint on an ever-changing, constantly shifting basis? And that's a question that's up for debate. We would like to have a discussion with you about it. We would not like to be censored for simply suggesting we would like to talk about such things. They've also deleted warnings against self-admission of, certain things, including some of the words that, according to George Carlin, you can't say on television. I thought this was the one that actually talked about, one of them actually mentioned things that, like, you can now say, maybe it's the next article. I mean, come on, I have a lot of articles here from The Guardian. There was another one that was suggesting that you can now call women household objects. No, they just removed language, a specific example saying you couldn't. It's very interesting. This one here is an interview with one of the fact checkers. The fact checkers are so sad now. They were taking their work so truthfully and so honestly. And this is just an interview, a sob story with a fact checker who needs to go learn to code now, I guess, because he's out of this job. You know, and this is another factor. Maybe this is a cost-cutting measure, right? It's a cost-cutting measure. Maybe he went out there and he said, look, I think in light of the cost-cutting such, then, instead of paying all these fact checkers, maybe we can just let the community do it. And then this one here, this person must also work for The Atlantic. Remember The Atlantic that ran such fun headlines like Georgia experiments with human sacrifice, because they lifted the COVID restrictions. So this article is written by this guy. He says, a new era of lies. Mark Zuckerberg has just ushered in an extinction level event for truth on social media. Isn't it very interesting how saying you can now speak freely is now falsehoods? No. Just because what someone says doesn't align with your personal viewpoint does not mean it's false. Okay? Maybe you've heard of this thing like, whatever floats your boat, man. You see, we live in this postmodern society, but it has gone so postmodern that people now think that anybody else living their own truths are completely wrong because your truths in your life don't align with my truths in my life. We've reached postmodernism to the nth degree, and it is a problematic thing. This is just a stupid opinion piece calling in such nonsense it's utter just nonsense. I mean, just look at the title. But that's the type of opinion piece that we get in such things. Sorry. So that is all the articles, the discussion, the talk about. I want to mention here, like why is he doing this? Why is Mark Zuckerberg making such a big change? Is he a free speech absolutist? Well, first let's ask, was he 5 years ago when he made that Georgetown speech? Well, probably not, being as that for the last 5 years, he's been doing censorship to the nth degree, mostly at the behest of governments and things like that. Maybe he did have a true change in heart because of the government. and how the government was forcing them to do certain censorships and how everything became so politically biased in such things. Maybe that's the case. It's also very possible he has invested millions of dollars in AI and he would like to receive some money back from it. And what better way than some lucrative government contract? And if he's constantly censoring all of the people that voted the incoming administration into office, he's less likely to get it than somebody else who has not done such things. So maybe it's just completely self-serving purposes that's causing him to unleash the censorship simply to get government contracts. Maybe he's just seeking to have a true alliance and seeking to not fall onto the bad side. So the real test for this would be what happens in 4 or 8 or 12 years when Democrats take control back over in the White House. When that happens, is he going to come back and start being censorish again? Or is he going to stand his ground and say, no, I'm not going to take stuff down that's not illegal. You're going to have to go prove it's illegal, which was a much better model. It was a better model for YouTube. You had to prove something was illegal. Remember that Daddy05 channel? This guy was like abusing his children on there. They never took anything down until there were actual court cases involved in making sure that the kids were safe. That's what it took to get that channel taken down. That's what used to be what the standard was. When there's illegal content, and then it just kind of became the subjective whims of the moderators and whoever was running the AI, which led to taking down videos of mine that were simply showing you how to use a software package that's available for download on the Google Play Store. Go figure that one out sometime. But is this a true, real change in heart? One of the evidences that could be the true change in heart, there are a couple. Number one, the appointment of Dana White to the board of directors of Meta, which also happened around the same time. Because he is a guy that is a true free speech person, one of the strongholds in free speech. Number two, that he made a lot of these statements and changes well before the election. Particularly when he comes out on Joe Rogan's show. Was it Joe Rogan's show? I think it was Joe Rogan's show. Maybe it was an interview with one of the media companies. It was somebody almost a year ago saying, yes, the government has been forcing us to take things down. All of these things happened well before we got to the point where the right took over the White House again. All of those happened before then. So there is a possibility that he has actually seen a change in heart. I mean, after all, he is getting older, and all of the jokes aside about him being a robotic Borg. In fact, I think that's one of the things that Not the Bee said. Is this due to a real change in heart or just a new programming? This is it, right? Not sure what to make. Did he become a real boy who got red pilled, or is he merely updating his lizard bot programming? Better behind him, you know? I mean, there's always that. But the reality is he is becoming an older person. And that old adage is true. If in your youth you do not lean left, you have no heart. And if in your elder years you don't lean right, then you have no brain. That is an old statement that is said, and there's an element of that is true. I could recite for you poetry I wrote in high school that's very left-leaning. Still have it. Some of those are actually included in my testimony book for the fullness of showing transformation of life. But as you live out your life and you start observing a lot of the factors, you know what? The idealism of youth that thinks you can solve the world fades pretty quick. And it's not because of evil worldly systems. It happens to be because of the evil bound inside of all of our hearts. And that is why I'm a believer in Christ, because that is the only mitigating factor in solving that problem. So with all of that being said, I don't know why Mark Zuckerberg did this. Is he really changing? Is he just seeking to have money? Is he just aligning with the current governments as he has done in the past governments? I don't know. Am I going to jump on Facebook now because it is becoming free speech and right-leaning and all this kind of stuff? Hell no. They're not changing any of their data collection policies. They are still a company that seeks to collect as much data as possible, no matter what and where it comes from, to monetize that data, to sell your data, to do all sorts of things that I do not find useful in our society. I still find they were a company that I don't think should be in existence because they were doing unauthorized, unsanctioned human research studies on teenagers without any form of consent. I think they should have been fined out of oblivion for that alone. I am not giving a iota of data to Facebook. I am not going back and using this platform. I don't care what direction they go. I do not give a darn tootin'. But the fact of the matter is, it would possibly become a better world. Not that they go right, but that they go free speech. The law is our standard. That is really what we need to see. And so with that, that is what the circumstance is with the Zuckerberg. Let me know your thoughts about all these things in the comments down below.